How you guys doing today? Nice to hear some Christmas music, huh? Yeah. If you're like my wife, she loves playing it all year round, but you know. Hey, we need to start doing this every week during the 10:30 service. We have a lot of people that watch online, and so I think we should clap and welcome everybody watching online. Thank you for joining us. Yes. So today we are beginning our Christmas series entitled No Room. And here's the idea for the next couple weeks. And it's just something to think about. It's good to self-evaluate, right? So don't shout it out. It's not an answer. It's not a test, all right? You're not going to be graded. It's just think about it for just a minute, okay? What role does God, and when I talk about God, I'm talking about your walk, your spiritual life, your Bible study, your prayer time, coming to church, using your gifts, all of those things, because God isn't just one thing, right? Our relationship with God, it's not just one thing, it's multifaceted. And so think about that. Like, what role does all of that play in your life, in our lives? Like, how important is that to us? What role does it play? Is it a significant part of our lives? Do we have room for God in our lives? And then we ask, like, is God, amongst the other things, is God being crowded out in our lives? Have you ever missed something big before? Like, have you ever missed something big where you look back and you're like, man, if I could replay that moment, I mean, if I could go back, if I could rewind, if I would have understood the significance of that moment, if I would have understood that decision, if I could go back. Anybody ever had a big miss before where you're just like, man, I whiffed on that moment. Like, I missed that opportunity. I missed that it could be an investment, a business opportunity. It could be a life decision. It could be a person. You're like, man, I whiffed on that. Like, I linked with the wrong person. If I could replay that in my mind, or if I knew then what I know now, man, I wish I would have moved our company in this direction, or I wish I wouldn't have, or I wish I would have hired that person, or I wouldn't have hired that person. Whatever it might be. Have you ever had a big whiff where you just had a big miss? I think we all have. It's World Cup time, and I love soccer, so I have a soccer story for you. So I grew up playing AYSO, it's youth soccer in Orange County, and so baseball is number one. If you know me, you've been in my office, baseball is number one, right? But as a kid, soccer was a close second. I loved soccer growing up, and we were in a game, and my team, we're the best team in the league. We're number one, and we're playing the number two team, the second best team, and it's getting near the end of the game, and we're tied, and it's tense, and we want to beat this team because they're right on our heels. We're the best team, but they think they're better, and so both of us want to win the game, and so one of our defenders steals the ball. Now get it, I'm like 10, 11 years old, okay? I'm not playing pro soccer, okay? I'm in youth soccer, and so one of our defenders steals the ball, and he passes it up to our left wing, to our left forward, and I played center forward. I was in the middle, and I look ahead when that ball comes across, and our left wing has the ball. You want to spread out, so I go to the middle. I was center forward anyways, and so there's one guy and the goalie, and nothing but green grass. And of course, I've never lacked confidence. I'm like, get me the stinking ball, yo. Like, give me the ball now. Like, that's my mindset. Like, that was the way I thought. I'm like, give me the ball, because I know I get the ball, I'm scoring. Like, the game over, we're tied, it's near the end of the game. I mean, they're gonna, lift me on their shoulders. I'm gonna be the hero. I'm going to score this goal, no problem. And so as we're going down, I'm thinking all this really quick, And so as we're going down, this defender has a choice to make. He has a choice. He basically has three options. One, to stay where he's at and react to the pass or non-pass, go over and attack the ball, or defend me. And as soon as he takes a couple steps to the wing, our left wing is smart, right? I mean, you practice this over and over. He passes the ball to me. And then we're coming up on the goal. The goalie starts to come out. And now let me set the stage. Okay, this isn't Qatar. This isn't the World Cup. This isn't finely manicured grass, right? We're talking about like a park, right, in Anaheim. I think it was like at a college or something. So we're playing in this park, right? And so you have grass that's probably hasn't been mowed in a while. And if you play the early games, you guys know this, in Southern California, the early games, the grass is always what? It's wet. There's dew everywhere. And so if you're in the early game, I mean, the grass is wet the entire game. So we're at the end of the game. The left wing's bringing the ball up. The defender chooses to take that side. He passes to me, and I'm left-footed, so I plant, and you're kind of taught to stop the ball first, but the goalie was coming out, so I'm going to kind of one-time the thing, score the goal, and it's over, right? I've scored, I don't know how many goals that season, a lot, and so no problem. So I go to plant my foot, and it's wet still, and my foot slips out from under me, I fall on my back, and I'm not the hero, right? A big whiff. I mean, and I don't know how many goals I scored that year. I scored a lot of goals. I don't remember any of those. I don't remember any of those goals, but you know what I remember? I remember falling on my butt and not scoring the game-winning goal. A big miss. I mean, I replayed that over and over, and I mean, all these years later, I still remember it, right? I still am haunted at night, like, Nora, help me. Like, I mean, I'm like, if I would have just and I replayed, okay, if I would have not been in this spot, or if I would have just stopped the ball, or if I would have slowed down a little bit, or if I would have, I mean, you replay it over. Have you ever done that before? Where you just whiffed a big miss. Turn to Luke chapter 2. See if you can catch the miss. See if you can identify the miss. Where you're reading the story and you're thinking, man, if they would have just understood this moment, if they would have known what we know now, if they would have just thought about it, what a big miss. And I guarantee that they're thinking, if we could replay this moment, we would do this so differently. Look in Luke chapter 2. It says, verse 1, at that time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that a census should be taken throughout the Roman Empire. This was the first census taken by Quirinius, who was the governor of Syria. All returned to their own ancestral towns to register for this census. And because Joseph was a descendant of King David, he had to go to Bethlehem in Judea, David's ancient home. So he traveled there from the village of Nazareth in Galilee, and he took with him Mary, to whom he was engaged, who was now expecting, of course, Messiah, right? The baby Jesus, now expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. And she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in snuggly strips of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no lodging available for them. A lot of translations, which we know are more popular, there was no room in the inn. Do you catch the miss? Do you see it? So at this time, there's this census. The Roman government needs to collect taxes, taking the census, and so everybody is required to go to their hometown, like where they were from. And Mary and Joseph are no exception. So Joseph has to go back to his town. It's 90 miles, 4 to 6 days or so. Mary is pregnant. And so it's not that far of a reach to think that it probably took them longer to get there than everybody else. She's pregnant. She's in her last trimester, and you know she had to stop and go to the bathroom 100 times, right? Like, you know that if you've had kids, like you know that. And not to mention, she probably needed the rest. I mean, she's in her last trimester. She's getting ready to have a baby, and could you, like, she's not calling Uber, right? There's no Lyft. She's not taking the trolley, right? There's no taxi. She's not getting on her scooter. I mean, they're taking this journey, 4 to 6 days. Could you imagine being in your last trimester and your partner's like, hey, let's go on a 90-mile walk, right? I mean, 4 to 6 days, I mean, that person would be dead, right? And so this is what they have to do. And so they go, and so it's not a big stretch to think, okay, they got there later than everybody else. I mean, they get there and there's nothing available. There's nowhere for them to stay. And you understand, like, there's not like Marriott's everywhere, right? And there's not even a Motel 6. We're talking about little bed and breakfasts, like people that have homes and they have a couple extra rooms and it's like a little mom and pop shops, little bed and breakfast. And so, in their little Airbnb, Mary and Joseph arrive, and there's no doubt that Joseph probably went around. And he's trying to find a place. I mean, Mary's pregnant, getting ready to have a baby, and that was probably his first concern was like he goes around to all these little inns, to all these innkeepers, and no vacancy. Like, there's nowhere to stay. I mean, after all, like, who's Joseph? Who's Mary? I mean, there's a lot of pregnant ladies here. Like, everybody's here to come to pay taxes and the census. Like, who do you guys think you are? There's no room for them. No room. And so they're relegated to what we know as like a stable, which in that area there were a lot of caves, so it was more likely a cave. And so these caves were often used to shelter the animals, a lot of sheep or whatever animals, and there's an opening at the front, and a lot of times the owner or the shepherd would put a bunch of like thicket in the front so that predators couldn't get in the cave, and if it was a shepherd, he would literally sleep at the opening to protect the sheep. And so they're relegated to this cave, literally a cave where animals are kept. And Jesus is born. And the Bible says in Luke 2 that she takes Jesus, right? No doctor, no hand sanitizer, no disinfectant spray, right? You get that, right? No $3,000 stroller, no crib, no baby monitor, none of that stuff. Jesus is born, she wraps him in some cloths, and she lays him in a manger. Which you understand, like, this isn't a Nordstrom manger, right? Like, this is not even Target manger. This is a feeding trough. Like, that's what it was. It was, they would put food in the trough and the animals would eat from the trough. And that's where our Messiah, that's where he's at. And so let's talk about the innkeepers in your notes. Like, you see the miss, right? I mean, obviously now we see the miss. We see the whiff. But there's a few things about the innkeepers before we're too hard on them that we need to look at. Now, you understand that the innkeepers sent Joseph and Mary to the stables not because they were evil. Listen, not because they were evil. They were just busy. They were busy. I mean, they're full. What are we going to do? We got no room. They're not evil people. They're just busy. The innkeepers didn't reject Jesus. They just didn't include him. I mean, who is this little baby after all? I mean, just ordinary, right? The innkeeper's success caused them, and this is where we have to pay attention, the innkeeper's success and busyness caused them to miss a significant God moment. I mean, could you imagine if they would have known what we know and what they would find out? I mean, the Jews have been waiting for the Messiah for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They've been waiting for Messiah. And could you imagine, like, if Messiah was born at your Airbnb, like at your inn? Could you imagine like Messiah was born at our little inn? I mean, it's a big miss. That is a major miss. And yet Jesus is relegated to a cave. I mean, this series is called No Room. And so what about us? What about us? In our busyness, in our drive, in our pursuit for success, none of which is wrong, none of which is evil, none of which is bad. The question and the thought for this series is this: do I miss significant God moments in my life because I'm just so stinking busy? And in my drive for success, I don't even see that God might be working in this area. Because we know this, you know this. If you've been a Christian for very long, you know that very rarely does God speak in the thunder, right? It's usually in the quietness. It's usually in the moments that we're not paying attention, or the moments that require our complete attention and our silence, or just our complete devotion. You see, it's not that we're bad people. Nothing wrong with being busy. I mean, doesn't God want me to be successful? Does he want me to provide? Yeah, of course. I mean, I get it. We're all there. We get it. I get it. But we got to ask ourselves, do we miss significant God moments in our lives? Do we miss life-changing moments? I hear people say all the time, God never speaks to me. God never does a miracle in my life. I don't ever feel God doing amazing things around me. And I'm thinking, are we listening? Because God's working. God's always working, right? I mean, we understand that, right? God is always doing something. But the problem is usually us. Like, we're just so stinking busy. We're so distracted. There's so much going on that a lot of times Jesus gets moved to the cave. Again, not because we're bad people. None of that's wrong. It's just, we're just busy. There's just so much going on. So let's talk about us. There's a couple things in your notes. Busyness can often crowd God out of our lives. I mean, let's just be real. Busyness can often rob those big God moments, and we're so preoccupied. We have so much going on. You talk to anybody. What have you been up to? Oh, just busy. What you doing? Oh, busy. How's your week? Oh my gosh, so stinking busy. I've just been there and there. I mean, that's what we are. It's like that. It's like we don't say we're busy. People think we're lazy, or that we're not doing anything, or not accomplishing anything in life, right? Oh, I'm busy. Everybody says, oh, I'm busy. I mean, when's the last time you ask somebody, how's your week? And they're like, you know what? It was nice and calm, and God spoke to me here, and man, I did my Bible study, and man, I pray. Like, no, it's usually I'm busy. I did this, the kids, the work, and da-da-da-da. Pastor Rich got me volunteering everywhere at church, and it says, right? We're busy. There's a story, if you flip over a couple chapters, if you're in Luke 2, flip over to Luke 10, there's a story of a big God moment. And one person misses it, and the other person recognizes it. It's the story of Mary and Martha. Jesus visits their home. And Martha, I mean, she's busy. Again, not wrong. She's preparing a meal. She's doing this probably on behalf of Jesus, right? She's busy. And Mary is just sitting there. She's at the feet of Jesus, and she's just listening. And she's just like soaking up that moment. I mean, Messiah, the creator of the world, the person that created me is in my living room. And she sees this moment, and she just stops. And she just sits there at the feet of Jesus. Look what in verse 38, Luke 10, it says, but Martha, underline that word, distracted. She was distracted by the big dinner she was preparing. Again, not a bad person. She's not sinning. She's just distracted. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, this isn't fair. Like, my sister's literally just sitting there, and I'm doing all this work. Why don't you make her help me? And Jesus tells her this in the next few verses, verse 41, Jesus said, Martha, you're worried about all these details, all your busyness and all, you're missing this moment. He's basically saying, do you know who's in your house? I'm here. And you're off doing this and that and this and that, and I know your intentions are good, but you're missing a moment. Mary has figured it out. She is not gonna miss this moment. And that's what Jesus tells her. He's like, she's putting first things first. She's concerned about the only thing that she should be concerned about right now. And Jesus said, no, she's not going to help you. Busy. We're busy. I mean, we're busy. There's a lot of little things going on in our lives. Our lives are filled with so much stuff. I mean, we got Netflix, Hulu. I mean, we've got Peacock, like every time. What's that cowboy show that's out now that Nora needs to watch every week? What's it called? Yellowstone. My gosh. Beth. Oh, she's crazy. That woman is crazy. Anyways, I mean, I've got that. I've got errands. I've got so much stuff that I have to do. Social media. I got to post. Facebook. I got to clean. I have to do laundry. There's just so much stuff going. There's so much little stuff that just fills so much of my life. And then there's the important stuff. Like all this stuff, it's busy work, right? And then there's the big stuff, the important stuff, the big things. I mean, the kids, they got to go to school, right? I mean, they've got homework, right? The stuff that they have to do. I mean, there's all this stuff, and then we've got, our kids play sports. I mean, they're busy. Like I got to drive them here. I got to drive them there. I'm the team mom, and so I've got this. I've got that. I've got so much. And then sometimes I got to work. I got to provide, right? So I've got to go to work. And I mean that's not really an option. I've got to work, and then there's got to be family time sometime, right? I mean, we've got to squeeze family in here somewhere. I mean, family time, happy wife, happy life, right? And kids, I mean, we have kids. We got to spend time with them, and even weird little brother. There's always a weird little brother, isn't there? And so, I mean, little brothers gotta, vacation. We got to go on vacation. We got to plan a vacation, and we got to save for vacation, and we got, and then, if we have time, church, Bible study, my prayer, I'm using my, okay, there we go. Whew, I got it. I'm not going to hell. I got it. We're busy. I get it. We're busy. Not only can busyness crowd God out of our lives or kind of thrown to the back burner, if I have time left, success can crowd God out of our lives. Success. I'm not saying any of these things are bad. I'm just saying to both, there can be a downside. And the downside is I might miss some big God moments in some life-altering, life-changing God moments in my life. If you flip over, we're in Luke 2, Luke 10, now Luke 18. If you flip over a couple chapters to the right, you get to Luke 18, and you know the story. There's a story of this rich young man, and he comes to Jesus, and he's like, I want to follow you. I want to be a part of the kingdom of heaven. How do I know that I'm going to go there? because he probably has everything and done everything, and there's still a void in his life. And so he knows about Jesus, and he's like, how can I be a part of your kingdom? I want to be a part of the kingdom of God. I don't want to miss out. Jesus says, oh, you got to do this, and the guy's, I've done all that, man. I've obeyed all the commandments. I'm a good dude. Like I've got all my stuff like the honorable way. I'm a good guy. And then Jesus says something, and we're like, why would Jesus say that? He says, go and sell everything you have and give your possessions to the poor, and then come and follow me. And you're like, well, why? Like, Jesus doesn't he want us to be successful? Doesn't he want us to strive for greatness? Doesn't he? Of course, yes. So why would he ask this guy to sell everything and follow him? And I think, well, there's a couple of reasons. We know there's probably a spiritual component, that where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And so Jesus probably knows that what's number one in this guy's life. But if you think of it from just a logistical standpoint, like we don't have to spiritualize everything, right? I mean, everything is spiritual, but there doesn't always have to be some. There could be, but there could also be just a logistical component to this. Jesus was mobile. His crew was mobile. Like, they didn't stay in one place. They didn't have a house. They moved around, and they went where God told them to go. And I think Jesus is saying, if we have this rich guy with us, he's got all of his caravan of stuff, he's got all of his resources. Maybe we're going to depend more upon the resources than we will upon God providing for us. And just from a logistical standpoint, this guy can't bring all his stuff with him. If he's going to follow Jesus, he's got to get rid of a lot of his stuff. It just makes practical sense, right? So it might not be as harsh as we think it is. It may just be a logistical reason that this guy can't be as mobile if he brings his whole caravan full of all of his equipment and all of this stuff. And then Jesus says something at the very end, which kind of brings about a spiritual point, which is definitely part of it. But he says, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And the disciples are like, man, who can ever get to heaven then? But he's not saying it's impossible. He's just saying it's difficult. And you say, well, thank God I'm not rich. And yet, if you heard my message a few months ago, we know that if you make, mid-30s a year, remember, God's a global God, not an American God, that if you make $37,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of income earners around the world. You make over $45,000, you're in the top 3%. So all of us are, we're rich. All of us are. And when you hear the eye of the needle thing, like we think of a needle, it's not a needle and thread. It's not a sewing kit. What he's referring to is in Jerusalem on the south side, you guys know that cities were surrounded by big walls, right? The entire city, huge walls, and there were gates and different things in different parts of the cities. And Jerusalem, there in the southern wall, there's this gate. It's like a pedestrian gate. And so if you're traveling with a big caravan, a big group, or even military reasons, like strategically, they'd have this small gate where if somebody's going to come attack, they're not going to attack from the south because there's nowhere to gain entrance. And so if you were bringing a big caravan, you literally would have to go all around to the other side of the city to gain entrance in the large gates. However, if you were a pedestrian, maybe you had one camel with you that was loaded with packs, you could try to get through this gate that was, guess what it's called? The eye of the needle. It was the needle gate. And the idea was this: pedestrians could walk through. A camel could, but get this, you'd have to unload all of its packs, all the luggage. You'd have to unload everything off the camel, and it would have to drop to its stomach and crawl on its elbows to get through. It's possible. It happened a lot. Just difficult. So he's not saying it's impossible to enter the kingdom if we're successful. He's just saying it's hard because there's so many other distractions, and there's another reason for it. Another reason for it. When we have capacity, when we have a lot, our tendency is to do something. Now, okay, pretend this is you, me, right? Okay. So if my car breaks down and I I've been smart with my money. I have a good job. Maybe I have capacity. I have savings, which all good things. We all should be good stewards. If let's say I had to replace my transmission, $2,000, like, a lot of people are just like, oh, okay, well, I was going to spend the money on this, but now I got to spend it on this, or I'll just pull from my savings or whatever. Some of you just like, I'll just buy a new car. I don't really care. Whatever. Our capacity, we draw from our capacity. But if you're week to week, if you're month to month, if you don't have a lot of savings, if you don't have a very good paying job, maybe you're a single parent, whatever it might be, like you're a $2,000 transmission, you know what you do? You drop to your knees. You're like, God, I don't know how this is going to get fixed. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. You see, if you have capacity, our tendency is to lean on our capacity. Maybe you're an intellectual. Maybe you're smart. You make good decisions. You make smart decisions. Maybe, good business decisions. You're an intellectual. Most of the time, you go, you're not trying to brag, but you go in the room, you're probably one of the smartest people in the room. Nothing wrong with that. God gave you that ability, gave you those gifts. But what happens is when difficulties come, when things come, when you have to pivot, your tendency is to lean in your own capacity. You draw from your own capacity. Me, I'm a decision maker. Like I'm a leader, I'm a decision maker. I mean, I can think really calm in crisis and chaos. I can make decisions on a whim, no problem. Oh, church needs this, do this, boom, boom, boom. I can make decisions, no problem. I don't care what's going on around me. I can slow things down and think clearly and make decisions. And you know what? A lot of times, I don't even have to pray about it. I don't even have to ask God. You see where I'm going? A lot of times, if we're gifted, if we're talented, if we have capacity, if we have money, our tendency is to lean into our capacity. And we don't even have to ask God, should we make this investment? Oh, let's do it. We want to start this second branch. Let's do it. We want to expand here. Let's do it. Oh, I got to make this decision for the church. Do it. Oh, our kids, boom, this decision, this is, we go in. Decision-making ability, that leadership ability, yes, that's all from God. Absolutely it is. 100%. But which way are we leaning? So how do we fix this? And then we're finished. How do we change the narrative? How do we solve the busyness issue? Weird little brother. School. I am so done with school. My gosh. My son is a senior. I am done. So I'm a pastor, so you're probably going to guess what I think is first. And what should come first. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. See, it starts, and again, I'm not just talking about church. I'm talking about our spiritual life. Church is a part of that. And I think one of the reasons why kind of my generation and down, kids aren't interested in church is because it's kind of been last for a lot, because everything else, we're so busy, church has been last. So our kids grow up and, who cares? I mean, we went to church whenever we had time, or we served and we used, we gave whenever we could give, and that was about it. And I'm suggesting, and I think the Bible would back this up, that if nothing else happens, this happens. This happens. If nothing else happens, and I'm guessing families got to be right there, right? I mean, they go hand in hand, don't they? Like, family is important. I mean, weird little brother needs you, right? I mean, family time is absolutely vital. And school, school is important. We want them to get good grades. You want to be a part, like school, they got to go to school. I mean, we know, and work is not an option. I mean, I got to provide. I mean, I have to, work is very important. And then, sports, we love sports. I played sports my whole life. Like kids, they love sports. Great, yes. Get them moving. Get them out of the stinking house and off the computer. Beautiful, beautiful. So here's the idea. This is how we solve the busyness problem. We take care of the important stuff first. First, in the right order. Then, Facebook, Netflix. What's going on with the Kardashians now? Right? My video games, all the, the laundry. I mean, the kids can go a couple days of dirty underwear, no big deal. We did it, right? I mean, who cares, right? I mean, vacuum, whatever, it'll get done, right? I mean, and let's be honest, not everything is gonna fit. We know that. You're not gonna be able to fit everything. But wouldn't you rather it be this stuff? I mean, wouldn't you rather it be this? Number two, not only we need to solve the busyness problem, but we've got to correct the lean. We've got to correct the lean. God, do you want me to make this investment? Yeah, you've gifted me with the ability to make good decisions, to be smart, to have capacity. God, is this your will? God, we're thinking about expanding. What do you want? Yeah, I can see it looks like a slam dunk. My business mind, my smarts, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about just you. Yes, this looks like a slam dunk, but God, is this what you want? That second, third, fourth date with that person. Oh, we click, we like each other, he or she's hot. God, is this a person you have for me? Is this from you, God? That decision that needs to be made, we need to move here, we need to go there, we need to sell the house, we need to buy this car. God, you see things I don't see. You know things that I don't know. And I don't want to be a no room person. The innkeepers missed a massive moment, not because they were bad people. They were just so stinking busy. And they're so successful. Just an ordinary man, an ordinary lady, having an ordinary baby. And if we're not careful, we'll do the same thing. That God, our walk, our spiritual life is just ordinary. Listen, that part of our life is not ordinary. Jesus is Lord, and he does not belong in a stinking barn. We got to correct the lean. Father, thank you so much for your blessings, for your goodness, for the capacity that you provide, for the wisdom that you provide, for the gifts, the abilities, all of that is from you for sure. But God, I think a lot of times we miss, and I say we, as I'm included, we miss significant God moments because we're leaning too much on our capacity. And we're just so stinking busy. All the other stuff comes first before what's most important. God, help us to lean the right way. Give us strength and power to seek you first. And God, I pray that you bless each person here today and help us during this holiday season and even throughout the year to put first things first and to make sure that our lean is not into our own capacity, but it's in you. In Jesus' name, amen. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in to New Hope this week. You know, the church doesn't stop when the video does. And make sure that you share this with a friend. You can even support what we're doing via the Give button here on the left. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single Sunday. And we cannot wait to see you this week, either in person or online. Have a great day.